right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another episode of Journey to Zion. This is Langston Williams. We also got this lovely lady, Bria Guyton.
How y'all doing?
And we have a special guest today, all the way from Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
What? Hello, everybody. Chancellor Williams here.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So today we're going to talk about Juneteenth.
You can't see me, but I'm throwing up a black power fist right now. Power to the people. We in this thing. It's our week. Come on, guys, stand up.
Yes, the day that basically declared the ending of enslavement. But we're going to talk about a couple of things just to get some terms out the way before we really get into the talk today. Granted that Juneteenth does encompass the ending of enslavement within America, there are just certain things that I want to introduce in order for us to grasp the complexity of the situation. Usually whenever we talk about enslavement, we incorporate the transatlantic slave trade, which is also known as the Middle Passage. We're going to condense that down to simply just the journey from Africa to the Americas. The term that we want to introduce that encompasses enslavement within its totality is called the Maafa, which is a Swahili term known as the Great Disaster or the Great Tragedy, is also known as unspeakable horror. Other terms you might hear to describe that are also like the African Holocaust, the Black Holocaust, or the Holocaust of enslavement. This encompasses the entire system of enslavement, its origin, and the impact that it had on both African people and the African diaspora. They used Holocaust to draw that parallel in emphasizing the genocidal impact that it had on enslavement as it did on the Jewish Holocaust. We also have this distinction that I want to make clear as we talk about enslavement, and that is intentionally using the word enslavement instead of slavery. Slavery, it more so centers the status of the person owned as the property, whereas enslave highlights the act of placing the human within that condition. We were never born slaves. We were made to be slaves. And I feel like that distinction is really important in highlighting the fact that we literally had the rights and our human dignity taken away from us within that act. So I just want enslavement to be used instead of slavery, because that circumstance, I feel like, is very, very important to be remembered.
And it's also an interesting concept. I feel like it's a concept I only started hearing or was only introduced to in 2019. The use of slavery versus enslaved people, mainly from working on the movie Antebellum, which shout out to Janelle Monáe. When she read the script, her very first note on the script for that movie was, I refuse to have the word slave thrown around in this movie because we are not slaves. We are enslaved people.
Yeah.
And Janelle Monáe was very, very quick to correct anybody who used the term slave on that movie. And, you know, it opened my eyes to something that I didn't realize was a thing until very recently.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we were taught to like condense this and simplify it down as much as possible. And when you do that, it becomes easier to dismiss. So you have to take into consideration the little like complexities within it all, because people would be quick to say that, you know, next thing you know, they'll be saying you were happy when you were doing it and that it was a choice. So it's just trying to get away from all of that.
We're looking at you, Kanye.
Right, yeah, certain unnamed people.
Certain unnamed people.
The idea that if 12.8 million people were brought into slavery through the Atlantic slave trade, 2.4 million people died in transit. That's like a sixth of the people that they took from their homes.
Can you imagine? Never even made it here.
Never even made it. And the crazy thing is, we don't ever talk about these people. We don't know their names. They were never given a proper burial. These are things in history that I just feel completely forgotten, completely never talked about. It's like part of our culture, a sixth of our culture here in America, never even...
We're missing out. And you see, and it's funny, as many of us there are here now, imagine had that, what'd you say, 2.4 million?
2.4
had they
million.
survived, came repopulated.
Yeah.
Can you just imagine?
We might have had hip hop a little bit sooner than we did.
The world may have been different as we know it, to be honest, for at least
Yes.
for Black Americans. So it's pretty intense thought to think about.
Crazy. And I mean, I'll add one more little caveat to that too. So there's 12.5 million, but that's 12.5 million that made it to the Americas, North America, the Caribbean, and South America. Now, of those 12.5 million, how many do you think were in like the United States of America?
Honestly, I don't know the distribution of it.
You could say a
but
percentage.
I would say
Out of the 12.5, I would say less than 25% because, Brazil next to Nigeria is like the blackest country. It's the blackest country we have
Salvador
in
de
the world.
Bahia has the largest population.
I had to look that up. The
Mhm.
largest Black population. So a good amount obviously went to the Caribbeans, clearly. A good amount went to South America, which a lot of people don't know about that, but like this is something I had to look up. And then we had our little, probably measly, and it's not even a measly number. We may have had 2.5 million in America where everybody else went down south. So
You're actually pretty close. Yeah. What do you think?
I would say maybe not. I would say higher than 25%. I think, but then again, at that point in time, it was just the 13 colonies and maybe a little bit further.
No, you can talk about it in its totality. Like,
I would say, I would give it about like 35%.
It's actually like 1%.
Wait, what?
1%?
1% went to America? That's it?
It's so
man.
crazy.
Yeah.
It sounds right.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yes, because they and then the laws that they had within the Caribbean, within the Americas, enslaved people didn't really live that long because they were seen as so expendable. So they kind of wore them out, for lack of a better word, like faster. But here you also think about the rules and regulations here, like the status of a child is based upon the mom. So like, you understand what I'm trying to say? I don't really want to say it because I don't feel comfortable saying it right now. But basically, like, you make the mothers have so many babies, and that's where it kind of comes
It's basically
from.
using the B word like you would use for, for pets, for
like
man's
breeding.
best friend. They're breeding.
Basically,
They're breeding. They're
yeah.
fat mules. Basically, they're just breeding them.
We need more Black people. Let's get these women pregnant as quickly as we can. We need more hands. More hands.
So.
And then it's selective breeding too, but I'm sure that'll be discussed later. So.
Oh no, we're not really gonna get into the
the
we're just
technicalities
mostly
of
talking about
slavery, just
Juneteenth
the
today.
history,
But yeah, it's like you can't talk about Juneteenth without talking about enslavement in and of itself. So it's just like just want to cover up a couple things. And yeah, so it actually was in Galveston, and it came from the Emancipation Proclamation from Abraham Lincoln at the tail end of the Civil War. The Emancipation Proclamation declared that all the enslaved people in the Confederate States would be free, and it was just a military measure to suppress the rebellion within the Confederacy. The emancipation was only the beginning of the abolishment for enslavement. Juneteenth actually wasn't like the tail end mark for enslavement. It was the 13th Amendment that ended it. Juneteenth was June 19th of 1865, but the 13th Amendment wasn't ratified until December 6th of 1865. So that was another crazy thing that I found out while like researching all of this.
I saw that too. Did you see the part where it said that the last few slaves were freed from Kentucky, and you'll never guess the last state? Did you see the last state that they were
No,
freed from?
was it like Louisiana?
Delaware.
Oh, it's Delaware.
Thank you, Delaware. It's like that's insane to me. Delaware had them like that. It was Kentucky and Delaware, and I was like, "You got to be
last
joking."
holdouts.
Wow.
That's why I don't know too many Black people in Delaware right now. They like, oh, y'all gonna hold us a little bit
Funny
longer?
sidebar.
We getting up out of here.
But you think about it, it's like, is that why our elders like Delaware Punch? Ooh, things to think about.
Things to
Message.
I don't think I've ever even been to Delaware, but like that makes me not want to go.
I've never been either.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, man, look, it's tough everywhere out here.
But that Delaware Punch is good. I ain't gonna hold it.
They onto something. This is something I found out about the Confederacy. Guess when the Confederacy was started?
When it was started?
Yeah, when it was like when the
when did they secede
Yeah,
from
the Americas Union.
I feel like I should know this.
That feels like that takes us back. So the American Revolution ended when, and then we got to go a couple years from there before they decided, like, wait a minute.
1776, the American Revolution, and then the Confederacy began in 1861.
Oh, that was short.
They so hard out over this.
Over a 4-year stint of time. That's like that's like any sports team having 4 good years. And now they're going, that's.
I mean, you got to keep in mind. So from 1776 to
1861,
white people's mindsets changed.
I could see the wheels were turning in their head. They're
from before then, because enslavement been in America, even before the establishment of America, enslavement is within those territories for so long. So they still
whenever 13 colonies first started. I mean,
that power dichotomy
before the American Revolution. But I think at some point in time, either maybe the white people were like, you know what, we don't need these Negroes. Let's do this ourselves. And the white people in the South were like, send us the Negroes.
Right.
We'll put them to work. I don't know.
Why would we do the work when we have an abundance of
people to do
we
the
brought
work
here to do the work for?
Hey, it was the humidity.
Right. Yeah.
It was the heat and the humidity. Them white people were like, we don't want to get dark skin. We don't want the tan. You send the Negroes out. They can do it.
What's interesting is, like, she told us 1861 is when they began, but I wonder when the wheels started turning that, like, hey, we don't really like the direction they're going. There's been rumor of, and back then how long it would take to come from the north to the south. There's been rumor of freeing the slaves. Like, what? Wait, what? It may have taken a year from Delaware or, the north to hit Texas. But, like, we heard they're talking about freeing the slaves. And
They must be out their mind.
Crazy. Like, not going to happen. So how long those wheels and that planning process took for them to be like, okay, we need to start our own
rebellion.
Right, our rebellion.
So the Confederacy was established on February 8th, 1861. The Civil War started on April 12th, 1861.
That makes me happy that at least the Union was ready to go to get it popping, go to war about it ASAP. They weren't going to sit around and let them,
yes,
amass an army.
2 months later, Abraham Lincoln was like, I don't know, my little side piece, she a little bit chocolate. Right. She a little bit chocolate.
Gotta go to war for her.
Right.
That's what it probably really was. I don't care what anybody says. I'm sure Mr. Abraham Lincoln, he had a little side piece. He was like, nah, we ain't about to keep her a slave. Nah, as soon as the South decided to separate, nah, we ain't having this. We ain't having this.
And you wonder, did they go? Was it just the haste they showed? Was it the slaves? Or was it because they can't afford to be internally weak to other countries in this Civil War, which it happened eventually. Other countries saw we were weak, but they're like, we need to squelch this ASAP, because if they catch wind over the seas and they come back over here, we're in trouble.
Right. The British might come back.
The British are coming again.
Run that back.
Right, yeah.
Round 2.
You're right.
So the Emancipation Proclamation was declared on 1863, and from there it took 2.5 years for that news to get down onto Galveston, and that's when we had General Gordon Granger reach Galveston, and he read aloud General Order Number 3, which goes as such. The people are informed that, in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slave, and the connection heretofore existing between them, become that between employer and hired labor. The freed are advised to remain at their present homes and work for wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts, and that they will not be supported in idleness either here, there, or elsewhere.
You want to know what's some BS, though? The freed are advised to remain at their present homes.
Uh-huh.
You want me to stay on this plantation?
Right.
Wait, you want me to stay on plantation
Right. You make sure
and work for wages? You think they about to pay me?
Right. Who wrote this? Right. Yeah.
Somebody
man.
clearly who never seen slavery, who don't know how it worked
It's
down
like
here.
someone whose cousin owned, my cousin owns that plantation, but so I'm gonna tell them they can stay there, and work the land if they want to.
Stay where you
Right.
Nah.
No.
Lincoln was dropping the ball there.
But that's also telling. That's the North for you. They said, you can stay there. You're free, but stay down there.
Yeah.
Don't move.
come
Just
up
stay.
here.
Yeah.
Just...
No, we don't need you up here.
Right.
Like,
we're all sorry, buddy, all full, but y'all stay down there.
They're definitely going to pay you. You have nothing to worry
Right,
about.
yeah.
You're going to get your money.
I'm sure it'll work out.
Yeah, it'll all work out in the end.
They don't hold grudges.
It's wild. And then, in addition to that, there really isn't a clear reason as to why it took 2.5 years for that news to reach Galveston.
they had to give it some time to cool off.
Right. That was hot off the press. They're like, ooh, they're not going to take this too well.
Wait, you want me to be the messenger to go down?
They're not going to like this.
I wouldn't want to be this one to get on a horse and ride all the way down there either. Like, get somebody else to do it.
That messenger.
That first messenger, they might have sent one messenger and never heard from him again. They were like, let's give it a couple of months before he's trying
again.
again.
Sweet time
Yes,
going down
indeed.
there. That's
So June 19th, 1865, that date is the best remembered date, but apparently there are different Juneteenths throughout the South, and as the Union won some more battles and occupied more territory, there are different versions of General Order Number 3 read throughout the South, but since Juneteenth is the most remembered date, that's the one that seemed to stuck throughout all of these years. And so, as the enslaved people within Galveston gained news of their freedom, and honestly, actually, as enslaved people in general gained news of their freedom, they left and they went to find the family members that they have lost throughout their lives, family members that have been sold away.
And this was before Facebook and before Instagram.
Yes.
Like, they had to look the old-fashioned way.
Yes, word of mouth only, really. And as they moved, they brought Juneteenth with them. And to this day, we more or less seen Juneteenth as like a homecoming or like in a version of family reunions. And in 1872, 4 formerly enslaved Black men they secured a permanent home for Juneteenth celebrations within Houston. These men are Reverend Jack Yates, Richard Allen, Richard Brock, and Elias Dibble. They purchased 10 acres of land, which is now known as Emancipation Park. And in 1916, the land was donated to the city. It still exists today as Houston's oldest park. So, yeah.
That's impressive that they did their due diligence to try to secure a safe space, so to speak, for us to celebrate in peace. Even though, I mean, in 1916 in Houston, there's probably a lot of...
When I read that, I was like, was it donated or stolen?
Right, yeah. How did they go about acquiring this land? Right.
Definitely wasn't there 40 acres and a mule, I'm sure.
Right, but I guess they just pulled, I hate to say they pulled a move of the oppressors, but they just kind of went to a land and was like, yep, this is ours. Yeah, this is only 10 of it, though. We don't need it all. Just
no,
10.
they purchased it.
They purchased it? Okay.
Yeah, they purchased it. They pulled their money together to purchase it.
These are pastors. They were passing that plate around.
Oh, goodness.
Ties it off for it came in here.
The first time on record to ever have a building fund.
Right. The 1916 was the first building fund ever collected. That's true. Goodness.
So,
They were passing that plate around for years, and everybody's like, I don't know if we passed this plate around. I still ain't seen no building yet.
1916, the altar call was created.
as the holiday grew up throughout the years, one major turning point came after the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. He was in the middle of planning the Poor People's Campaign March, and after he died, that work continued via a Solidarity Day held in Washington, D.C. That was on June 19th, 1968. This was organized by Reverend Ralph Abernathy, and it had about 50,000 participants there. It lasted for about 6 weeks, including moments where activists lived in an encampment called Resurrection City. They lived in an encampment called Resurrection City to raise awareness of inequality. They believe that the success of this rally helped inspire participants to host Juneteenth celebrations within their own communities in the decades that followed.
I mean, it did grow. Question: what was the earliest you remember hearing about Juneteenth as a holiday?
I feel like you, and I hate it was like that. You heard it in whispers, but look, all of us came from Mississippi, then we went to Louisiana, and you still wasn't quite hearing about Juneteenth. It wasn't as popular for us, probably till like post 9/11. Maybe I started, you hear about Juneteenth, maybe after Katrina. I think, okay, that might be it. Yeah, after Katrina, when we were, going through it in Louisiana, and, the unity was needed and stuff like that, then it's like, okay, well, we got Juneteenth coming up, just to kind of pick the city spirits up and stuff like that.
Okay. Actually, you might not remember this, but I'm going to go back a little bit further in time. Miss Bryce from Greater Mount Olive used to be the biggest advocate for Juneteenth. And I didn't really understand or know what it was at that time, but I always remember Miss Bryce always pushing for Juneteenth celebrations, or the church is going to be having this picnic for Juneteenth, Juneteenth this, Juneteenth that. So for me, it was probably age 7, 8, 9. But if it were not for Greater Mount Olive Baptist Church, I would have not known what Juneteenth was until almost college, because she was the one who kept it alive for me. And then after leaving that church, after leaving Mississippi, there was like no talk of Juneteenth at all until much, much later in life. When was the earliest you heard about Juneteenth?
Honestly, 2016.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a lot of people. And what's even crazier than that is, if it wasn't for Blackish doing that episode on Juneteenth, that was a lot of everybody's first time hearing about Juneteenth. They were just trying to bring attention to it, but, our Pilgrim neighbors definitely didn't know what it was. A lot of us didn't know what it was. Maybe in the South you kind of knew about it. Maybe kind of in Chicago you kind of knew about it. After the Great Migration, a lot of us went up there, so you know about it. But I think Blackish really did it for a lot of Americans.
Because they're skipping that chapter in high schools.
Either
skipping it or they speed through it.
I don't think that's another one. I don't think they mentioned it in high school.
Or in elementary school. Like they speed read once we get to them pages on slavery.
Right.
All right, and then all right, now back to the great Reformation,
the
Great Depression.
The Prussian War, right?
Because you don't even hear about Reconstruction in school, and I feel like that's just as important. But yeah, there was a teacher that I had, Professor Jima, and this is in college. She wanted me to write an essay for an essay contest. This lady who founded the Now and Then Museum within Baton Rouge, Sadie Roberts Joseph, may she rest in peace. She had a Juneteenth celebration for her museum, and she wanted me to write an essay contest, and I ended up winning the essay contest, and I was able to go there for June 19th, and that was my first time ever doing anything for Juneteenth.
Wow. That's crazy.
It's sad, honestly, too, because it's a holiday, like, I feel like it's a holiday that's closer to us than July the 4th, but we celebrate July the 4th more so than we celebrate.
Right. Well,
we celebrate Cinco de Mayo, boy.
We celebrate. That's the thing, and that's what's annoying. Yeah, we'll celebrate Cinco de Mayo, and what's funny is that's not even. I don't even think that's their Independence Day.
Yeah.
So it's like, why are we celebrating all these days of wrong dates and whatnot?
Mexican Independence Day is in September.
Right.
I only know that because Canelo Alvarez always boxes on that day.
So yeah, just furthermore talking about like the history as to how Juneteenth became a national holiday. It didn't become a state holiday. Well, Texas was the first state to make it a state holiday, and that was spearheaded by State Representative Al Edwards, who's also known as Mr. Juneteenth. And then in 1994, a group of ministers in New Orleans founded the National Juneteenth Observance Foundation in the wake of an uproar of police brutalities that happened and still goes on to this day. But one of the biggest advocates for Juneteenth and biggest reason as to why it is now considered a national holiday is from this lady known as Opal Lee, and she's known as the grandmother of Juneteenth. And she's still alive. She was born October 7th, 1926, which is funny because that's my mom's birthday, October 7th. But I also want to say, like, her paternal great-grandmother was born enslaved within Louisiana. So we have a lady who's still alive who literally can draw back, like, her great-grandmother. I knew my great-granddad, and her great-grandma was born enslaved in Louisiana. And people like to make enslavement as this thing that happened so long ago.
Oh, no.
But whenever you think about it like that, it's, like, really not that long ago.
Really, for some people, the boomers, grandparents, parents were more than likely enslaved. Yes. So and that's why it's the same thing on the flip side. You know, people like, well, they weren't racist. Well, you know, your grandparents' parents were probably in the Confederate Army, more than likely, you know, so you may not be racist, but there's a lot of racism that was taught down the line.
Yes.
That great-grandparent, they definitely used the N-word
Right,
once or twice.
And you wouldn't be, you know, it wouldn't be crazy to say, like, you probably have some racist microaggressions that you learned from them.
Right.
It might not be the outright hatred of Black people, but you definitely have some biases that you probably need to check.
Right.
The journey for making Juneteenth a holiday for her was personal because when she was 12, a white mob burned down her family's home because her parents had bought a house within a white neighborhood. And this was Juneteenth in 1939 when that happened to her.
See, that's what's funny about that is they're choosing to do that on Juneteenth. Let you know that these white people knew and were kind of acknowledging Juneteenth. To be able to do an act of terror on Juneteenth? Come on now. That's
right. Well, they knew it held significance to us, so they would do anything was go out on their way to ruin our day.
Yeah.
You know. But now that it's a national holiday, you sure taking that day off? That's for sure. You're not going in the office on that Juneteenth. You're appreciative of it.
But this whole thing is like an act of degradation and power, and white people will stop at nothing to be able to restore order or in their favor for all it is. So I wouldn't be surprised if on Juneteenth they do something crazy like that in order to kind of let you know that, yo, you might try to, you know, think you have freedom, but we're going to try our best.
Trying to put us in our place or something like that. Yeah.
Yes. So 2016, she started a walking campaign from her home in Fort Worth, Texas, to Washington, D.C., and she was invited to different cities. And in those cities, she walked 2.5 miles to symbolize the 2.5 years it took for enslaved people in Texas to learn that they were free. And she made it all the way to the Capitol. But at that time, I want to say it was like 2021. I can't quite remember. At that time, it still wasn't made like successfully into a federal holiday. But currently, as of 2025, all 50 states recognize Juneteenth as a holiday, and it is currently a federal holiday. And within many cities throughout America, there's an annual 2.5 walk as a way to celebrate Juneteenth.
Yeah, even in Alaska, get them walking.
Now that is news to me. I didn't know about the 2.5 miles. I'm gonna have to look that up next time we're back home for Juneteenth to see where that's being held.
Yeah, they're doing one here. I'm pretty sure they do one in Atlanta.
Definitely in Atlanta.
Yeah.
All the chocolate cities.
New York.
DC, right.
Yes.
This is actually a question I definitely was curious of because I know, you know who I'm thinking of when I ask this question, who sometimes just takes things too far. But do white people owe anything to us on Juneteenth? Like, is there a certain etiquette white people should follow on Juneteenth? Like, should they have a certain level of respect on Juneteenth? You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I don't know about a certain level of respect, but I mean, it's just a day of reverence. You know, we don't need to. I'm not gonna say you can't do what you want, but I don't need to see you, you know, on Juneteenth. Can a brother get a day? Can a brother get a day? You know what I'm saying? You know, just keep it quiet. You know, you take a day off. You know, it's hard to find them that are all up in arms and they're angry at Juneteenth. They're like, oh, they got another holiday and stuff like that. Like, take a day off. You know, you don't have to celebrate it. And if you do want to celebrate, that's another day, just like we celebrate 4th of July. Just go cook, throw something on the grill, shut up, be happy. Let us do our thing.
Is it like, but I almost feel like it should be like be nice to black people today. Don't, if you want to be an activist today, be an activist, but don't do too much. Don't just overdo it with
it's insincere. Don't be nice to me tomorrow and then you call me the N-word in passing tomorrow. The next, or nice to me today and then call me N-word in passing tomorrow. That does nothing for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I ain't seen a lick of reparations yet, so.
That's what I was thinking. Like, in the scope of reparations, like, we should at the very least have this to start it off. Like, this is the least you can do.
Give us all a little Juneteenth bonus. The government give every black man a Juneteenth. You got a quarter black in you, give them a check.
Everybody send in your blood test, right? Let's figure this out.
I mean, it's not wild and crazy because we've seen the little checks go out during the stimulus package.
Oh, the stimulus.
We need a Juneteenth stimulus reparations package. I don't think it should be happening.
I feel like at the very least, we should not have to pay taxes. I feel like at the very least. I feel like
for the day?
No, in general. I'm talking about reparations.
Okay, reparations.
Yeah,
okay.
like, I mean, maybe for the day, hell. I mean, that's really not that much money. But, like, in general.
And also another question I had.
Mm-hmm.
Should there be a bigger push for awareness for why we are off for Juneteenth? For the non-melanated folk. Because, like, I feel like we're off. But I feel like some people, at least at my job, I feel like there are some people who don't realize and understand why we're off. And I'm sure a lot of people don't understand and don't realize why we're off. They look at their calendar and say, oh, we're off Juneteenth. What's Juneteenth? Oh, well.
Well, that's just not know what Juneteenth is. That might be what you need to teach them. Like, I know y'all think that Emancipation Proclamation did its thing in, what was that, 1863?
Yeah.
But it did not. As per usual, the South, specifically Texas, was holding it down, the last racist stronghold. We're holding on to their slaves as long as they could. Right. So, but you want to be mad at Juneteenth, be mad at Texas.
But I kind of feel like, so think of Columbus Day. When you're in elementary school, how many ships did they have you coloring in coloring books to commemorate and to get you ready for Columbus Day? Yeah. Like, we know the names of all the ships.
Yeah. Putting your hand for the turkey.
Right, yeah.
And like, we sitting here doing turkey hand animals for Thanksgiving, but can we name a single slave ship?
The Colita. But yeah, that's really it for me.
Right.
I mean, but we can name all the ships that the Pilgrims came on.
The Mayflower.
All the most famous ships.
We can name all the ships Christopher Columbus came on, but we can't name a single slave ship. I mean, the schools have dropped the ball. Like, why? I think they're on the week leading up to Juneteenth, in the same way they have the kids drawing boats and coloring boats and like doing little hand animals the week of Thanksgiving. We need to be sitting around coloring books of Martin Luther King and MLK. That, like, just so they have an idea that, something's black going on.
What are they doing for now? We're so far removed from elementary and whatnot, but what are they doing for Black History Month these days? Are they still doing the morning announcement? The Martin Luther King, the morning announcement on this day in Black History, so and so happened. What are they teaching the kids these days? The kids got Obama in the books now. We don't have that. I don't even know who knows what they're teaching for when it comes in our history classes, when we finally get up to the 1900s. Okay, Reconstruction, and then we're getting closer and closer to civil rights, and it's like, civil rights happened. All right, next. So anyway, the 70s.
When I was in elementary school, no recognition for Black History Month. Right. So, I mean,
really?
I think during Black History Month, I'll never forget, it was like K through third grade. I was at a school called Westminster Academy. I was one of the only black boys in my class. There was one other one. His name was Richard Miller. And Richard's dad, during Black History Month, made sure to come and do a presentation on George Washington Carver. And he brought all the kids peanuts. And
Benjamin Banneker, shout out.
We made peanut butter in class, but like, it was a fun activity. But he did that to be like, all right, my son and this other black kid, there are only 2 black guys in this class. Everybody else is white. But y'all are about to learn some black history. Y'all about to learn what we did for y'all.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like we should have the same kind of push happening for Juneteenth, if not bigger.
You make a good point.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it. I'm definitely not opposed. Knowledge is power. Let them learn something.
My whole thing was like, at the end of the day, information is so readily available. If you choose not to engage in that, that just shows who you are as a person.
Ooh, that's a word.
And as racism becomes more and more discreet, I just want to allow space for people to show their true colors. That's all I feel about that. But I totally agree with you in a point of just making the information more readily available in schools so that kids, like Black kids especially, are taught, have access to that information because it's empowering.
I'm going down to school, and my kid's in elementary school, and on June 18th, he comes back from school showing me something from art class. Hey, look, Dad, I drew a kite today in art class. Wait a minute. Why a kite? Why ain't you drawing Martin Luther King? Let me go down to that school and talk to him. What they have you drawing kites for on June 18th, knowing tomorrow is Juneteenth?
They're not even prepping you.
They are prepping you. I hope every kid in school is going home with a, hey, look, Mommy, I drew a black man.
I drew a black man. I drew Martin Luther King.
Colored in a black power fist.
Look, Mommy, I drew a black power fist. I drew a free man.
Something, to recognize that day, recognize all that we done.
I'm gonna be down at that school.
People worried about book bans and people on certain gender teams. Like, why are we not worried about? I feel like this is more priority over. You understand what I'm trying to say?
You about to rock the boat with this one.
I'll say it for it. Juneteenth's more important than Columbus Day.
Juneteenth more important than Columbus Day, but
that's not what she was talking about.
No, Juneteenth is just as important as people in the South have such a hard time accepting, say, trans women on women's teams. Like, we should also fight back with, like, this is important too. Y'all worried about the wrong thing.
That's what I just saw. Like, the girl from Minnesota, some high school softball team, had a trans girl on the team. None of them girls on that team are going professional softball. Y'all worried about the wrong thing. So your team lost. Maybe next time you'll put your daughter on the winning team. Right. We need to have much more pressing issues. Juneteenth, learn something.
Learn something today. Please and thank you. Give me one more.
By the way, we love all trans people.
Always and forever.
How does this come into play today, though? Right now we're seeing all these little things happening with ICE and these raids and all these protests going on. It is Juneteenth ain't feeling very Juneteenth-ish right now. And I know that doesn't affect us as Black people as much. So we think it doesn't affect us as Black people as much because it's happening to our Hispanic brethren and our Latino brethren. But they are one step removed from us. And I just think if we let ICE win against them, who they coming for next?
Well, and you can do that reverse too, because that's how it always is. If they're on us, they already see us as the lowest of the low minority. Who do you think they're going for next? If we're going to do the order, in my mind of what the white man thinks, it's Blacks first, Mexicans next. For some strange reason, Asians think they're out of the picture. They think they got a clear cut, but Asians, y'all are next. Let's not forget the railroads, the Orient Express, all that. Y'all were also, looked down upon. And then if we want to take it to the next level, the red-headed Irish people, when y'all came over here, they didn't exactly care for y'all either. Yes. If you weren't a white Protestant, then there's going to be a tough road for you. It always, you can always keep going to another level. But for some strange reason, people are just happy that at least I'm not Black.
Yes. I don't know. I do want to go back to this for a second. Asian people, Asian community, we gotta link up, guys. Like, they have pitted us against each other for whatever reason. We come in y'all stores, we want to patronize it, we want to buy stuff, but the white man out here got you thinking.
You got some type of proximity to whiteness just because I couldn't tell you.
It's like a model minority. It's like the respectability politics. Like, if you carry yourself in a certain way, you're going to be more easily accepted. Asian people.
They don't cause
we
waves.
all on the same team, baby. We all on the same team.
Right. They don't cause waves.
They don't start no problems. And then at the same time, in regards to, like, considering what is whiteness, like, within the physical, Asian people... East Asians specifically within this whole context, honestly. East Asians
closest skin
are
you
the
can get to the
closest
pale, that pale
skin,
hue, right?
the straight hair. It's really just the eyes and
Really,
sometimes the
yep.
nose that really is like distinguishing factors.
And yet, I don't know. I kind of feel like when I see these protests online, I feel like I don't see enough of us out there protesting with them, especially as we approach Juneteenth, which is about freedom. I don't know. I feel like this is one of those times where we should see this kind of connection. What we could be witnessing right now is a second civil rights movement of sorts. It could be happening. It like we are like literally walking that line where however these ICE raids and all this plays out could affect generations and generations to come. But I feel like we're leaving them on their own.
I think there's a little fatigue with that though, because after this this election this year, when the statistics came out and we saw some of those numbers
and who voted for who,
it showed us that
Latinos for Trump,
right? All skin folk ain't kinfolk, and if you just got a dash of brown, you does not exactly mean that you know
for the cause.
Yeah, you're not for the cause. Because some of those percentages, obviously. Shout out to black women. Black women held it down for real.
Black women held it down. Y'all been holding it down. Y'all queens, y'all been holding it down for us for a long time.
What did Dr. Umar? Black queens forever, snow bunnies never. But black women and black men, our numbers were the percentage that voted for Trump, too high for me personally. I think too high for everybody, but black men, they did, at least we were over the 50% mark. Then you go to the next color down or up, Mexicans. I think maybe the Hispanic women kind of held us down to a degree, but Mexican men, I don't know what's gotten into them as of late.
It's a shame.
I think they are learning their lesson, but this is not like a karma lick back type thing. We all can win now. We got to team up.
Yeah.
The man's trying to come for us all. We got to stick it to the man together.
It's power within numbers. I read on Juneteenth about Annette Gordon-Reed, and it kind of specifically talks about Juneteenth within Texas and also kind of hints on like the establishment of Texas. And there was a point in time where Texas was its own country, and I was reading parts of their constitution. And whenever I read it, that's whenever I really realized how like all this really is BS. Section 6. All free white people who shall immigrate to this republic and who shall, after a residence of 6 months, make oath before some competent authority that he intends to reside permanently in the same and shall swear to support this Constitution, that he will bear true allegiance to the Republic of Texas, shall be entitled to all the privileges of citizenship.
6 months and pledge your allegiance, and you get all.
That's it.
I mean, low key.
But
if we did that in America, we wouldn't be having ICE raids right now.
That's my point.
Right.
A white man.
Texas has some lax laws. We can't drink there. We can't smoke there. But all you got to do is say, shout out to Texas.
Horns up.
Shout out to
Horns up.
6 months. Say buy Houston's jersey. All of a sudden, Houston's Texas jersey, and all of a sudden, you get all rights of citizenship. Right. Hey, it's time for us all to go back to Texas. Adopt this Texas
all you
law.
got to do is learn Mo City Dom. And then you'll be good to go. You're a bona fide citizen.
I'm like, that's crazy. Like today, it takes some people 20 years to become a citizen. And you mean to tell me that
Texas was trying to lead by example. Right.
Like, I don't know what changes within America that has happened within, and if it made it that added to like making it harder for people to become citizens. But really, what does it take to become
a Cowboys fan and get this UGK tape?
That was back then, but now it's all about always about that money now.
Yeah.
That capitalism trumps everything.
Mm-mm.
But I do need to say, the crazy thing is, I know people always say, well, the illegal immigrants taking our job. The illegal immigrants are doing the jobs that we don't want to do.
That people don't want to do. Right?
If we get them out of here, I think the economy will start to fall apart in places that have a lot of immigrants. Who's going to work these mom and pop shops? Who's going to do these jobs that nobody wants to do?
Who's going to work the farmland?
The farmland, the crops and stuff.
Like and I'm not saying that the immigrants here have to be stuck in these roles and positions and can't do better and can't achieve more, or shouldn't achieve more. But I think they add to our economy They add to the capitalism. They are not taking away from it. And by getting rid of them, we are really hurting our bottom line. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't understand why anyone wants to take away the people that are making these businesses stay afloat, that are bringing in extra money every single month. Like, who really wins? I don't understand.
I don't get that either.
But back to Juneteenth. We do love a Juneteenth.
Oh,
we do love a Juneteenth. I know I'm the
Juneteenth.
guest here, and I know we got limited time. A quick rapid fire, Bria. What does Juneteenth mean to you?
Juneteenth means to me the story of overcoming and fighting for your rights and remembering where you came from and not ever letting yourself get back to that point. It's a growth for me. It's a growth and acknowledging that you are your own person and never letting anybody tell you otherwise.
Thanks.
It's the day for me to be my blackest self. Mm-hmm. And I'm not just saying black, I'm saying blackity black. Mm-hmm. I know we've already touched on this in another episode, but like, you know, I don't necessarily think of it as an Afrocentric day, but I think it's more of a day for us as Black people in America to celebrate us being Black in America after we have overcome all the things that we've overcome. Right? Yeah. We've overcome a lot.
Yeah. What about you?
Myself, I think it's just, you know, like y'all said, y'all touched on a lot of just a day to be unapologetically Black. My only criticism is I just hate that this seems to me to be the only day that we can all be on one accord. For the majority, it seems like we haven't seen unity like this probably since 2008 when Obama ran, as far as Juneteenth is concerned. Everybody's getting along. Everybody's, you know, in a good mood, you know. We've got the holiday. We've got the day off. You know, I ain't got no job. I'm about to go have fun, cook some meat on the grill. I just wish that we could do that every day and see how far we progress. And then business booms, you know, how much money we're putting into Black-owned business. Everybody wants to go Black-owned today for Juneteenth. Why wouldn't you go on Black-owned? You know, Black people are the number one consumers. We spend more than we bring in somehow. So that just goes to show you capitalism and credit lines. That's another conversation for later. But, you know, if we're the number one consumer, we could be spending all this money on Black business every day of the week.
Make it a lifestyle, and not a holiday.
Right, thank you. Every day could be, you know, and it's Africa, but every day could be Wakanda. But y'all just want to choose June 19th to, maybe we shouldn't be so angry towards each other. But tomorrow you're going to go back to, you know,
the same craziness.
The anger, that just makes me sad. But, you know, at least we do have the one day, so it starts there. Used to be nothing. Now we got a day. Let's see if we can get a week. See if we get a month.
See if we can make it a lifestyle, an actual community, an actual culture.
Right.
Ooh, I need that on a shirt. Juneteenth, a lifestyle.
Right. Not a Juneteenth, not a day. Yeah, not a day, a lifestyle.
A lifestyle. Like same with Black History Month. Heck.
Right. Whew, hey, that's hot fire right there.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you guys so much for joining us on yet another episode of Journey to Zion. We hope to see y'all next time. Till then, y'all take care.
Audi 5000.
Thanks for having me. Have a good day.
Thank you so much, Chancellor, for being a part of this.
No problem.